Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on March 3rd, 2026. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome, newcomers. I stumbled across this article. I thought it was really interesting, and I'd like to review it with you guys. So remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there. And it's entitled V2K RNM, which means Remote Neural Monitoring, and V2K is Voice to Skull. You know, for some of the new people new to targeting. This is targeted individual against RF-based weapons, delving into the world of contractors using RF-based mind control technologies. And basically, they sit around and they're wearing goggles, staring at you. There is a criminal subculture hidden and protected under the umbrella of state secrecy, you know, security, targeting security, public security, which is just a ploy for the targeted individual program, right? These contractors, they're part of a very vast network of surveillance, mind control program, and human trafficking. The Epstein network was one of these programming contractors in this system. There are many connections made to the targeting programs and Epstein. They facilitate child trafficking rings for the rich and powerful and allow for blackmail to control officials and politicians. And we've known that from the Epstein files, that it's come out and many have interpreted as just a massive blackmail, coercion of blackmail for all the politicians and stuff, luring them in so they could blackmail them for, you know, millions of dollars, or to control them, get them to do what they want these controllers to do. So they facilitate child trafficking for the rich and powerful, and they allow for blackmail to control officials and politicians, and other networks target people who are inherently opposing the satanic system of total control and moral degradation. And for most of you people here on the channel, you are not going along with the satanic agenda. And people are waking up to this satanic agenda and do not like it, do not want it. And the Epstein files have certainly brought that to the fore, even though many of us have known about it for decades. Many targeted people, from politicians, activists, independent journalists, and church-going grandmothers, are known to be targeted. This is an organized criminal network that is using techniques and technology from the MK Ultra programs, and some refer to them as the Illuminati. I call them the Illuminati, or the New World Order. It's really a group of criminal organizations, deep state intelligence communities, the DoD, which is the Department of Defense, industrial and financial elites, and contractors. And we know that InfraGard, that is directly reports to the FBI, are involved in these atrocities against people like you and I. So let's talk about remote neural monitoring contractors. These are men and women who go to work every day to monitor what you're thinking. This author goes on to say that after their personal experiences being targeted and talking with hundreds of other targeted people, it became clear that each person was assigned an RNM, remote neural monitoring handler, and sometimes two of them. Sometimes there's a pair of them. It depends on why they're being targeted. The handler will use different torture and conditioning tactics. So I am absolutely convinced that here in Jackson County, Kentucky, my handler, or at least one of them, is new. has come on board since January of this year, possibly February, because I have found that much of what's happening to me now is completely different than what has happened to me the subsequent 6 years. Although what's happened to me the subsequent 6 years is still happening, but there's like this new and improved method of harassment that has not been performed before, such as somebody hacking into my phone and changing the brightness on the panel. This has been going on for a month now. It's like prolific. It happens several times a day. Oh, another thing that they're doing is they're cracking my chickens' eggs. I've been taking care of chickens now for 6 years. Every once in a while, an egg will crack. You know, after they lay it. Maybe they lay too many eggs at one time or whatever. But this is where there's one egg alone all by itself, and suddenly it's a mess all over the place. So this has happened every day this week so far. And of course, this is a short week, but no, it's happened since last week. It's never happened before in 6 years. So, depending on why they're being targeted, a handler will use different torture and conditioning tactics. Some are subject to RF-induced paranoia and surveillance, while others are tortured around the clock with V2K and painful RF-induced physical pain. All are made sure to be socially ostracized and sleep deprived with the RF-based weapon system. And this would include being knocked out, you know, we call it knocked out, being put to sleep, where you are discombobulated upon waking and you don't know what happened because you were in the middle of doing something, you're in the middle of reading a book, you're in the middle of responding to an email, and suddenly you go from completely awake to asleep, allegedly asleep. And then you wake up and it's like 20 minutes have passed, a half an hour, 2 hours have passed, where you're going in and out of consciousness. It's sort of like if you've ever been hypnotized. And by the way, I'm a certified clinical hypnotist. So being under hypnosis generally, if you're under hypnosis for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, even an hour, when you wake from hypnosis, you feel completely refreshed as if you'd slept for 5 hours. That is not the case when you are knocked out with these weapons. You feel absolutely exhausted because they are harvesting your energy, your loosh, during these attacks. In addition to covertly entering your home, covertly implanting you, entering outbuildings and stuff, harassing your pets, etc. It's also about stealing your time. Because in order to maintain memories, you need to go from having the memory, the thought, to storing it and acting upon it. And what these criminals do is, while you're processing memories, they'll knock you out. So then when you wake, you don't remember where you left off. And they want you to think that not only you're going crazy, but that you're becoming too forgetful, when their technology is inducing these issues. So this sleep deprivation and the perpetual trauma renders people more susceptible to trauma-based mind control techniques, which now can be done remotely with RF-based neuromodulation and V2K. So these contractors, these sellouts, these losers, these paid-for-hire criminals use neuromodulation on themselves as well. This author found out that they only need about 3 hours of sleep. That's interesting, right? These criminals only need 3 hours of sleep? Well, they're getting paid to not sleep, too. After researching the emerging neurotech he put together, that they were able to put themselves into REM sleep cycles almost instantly to drastically shorten the amount of sleep that they require. They also suspect that they're able to use digital drugs. This is for educational purposes only. With the push of a button, their brain-computer interface is able to stimulate a drug experience and also boost their cognitive function considerably. So this is stimulating the receptors in the brain, sort of like a let's pretend they're having a drug experience when it's being stimulated as if they are having one. One experiment this author did during the torture was trying to stay awake as long as he could. This was to see if there were people taking shifts or the same person. And after 3 days of chugging coffee with the contractors were telling him to please go to sleep, they would rally and say they wanted me to stay up for a few hours, and then I would get strong thoughts of just lay down in bed and rest, quote unquote. This leads me to think that there was only 1 or 2 actual contractors, and because of their extensive use of AI voice changers, I had a hard time of telling who I was talking to, he claims. They would also neuromodulate me to picture different people speaking. They would, with the press of a button, make me sure I was talking to different people, and they would be able to use the voice of anyone that he'd ever heard in real life. Now, that is very scary, right? Imagine how many voices you've heard in your life. Families, friends, even people you've casually spoken to on the phone. Suddenly, you're hearing the voices of these people from your past, let's say, from junior high school, from high school, and even from kindergarten, let's say. So you're hearing these different voices of people, and this person would have a very hard time knowing that the voices that he heard were real. There were recordings of people from the past. So between what I can only describe as torture sessions, they would brag about their capabilities and incentives. They said once assigned to or quote unquote purchased the target, they were able to steal their assets and do whatever they wanted to them. What made the biggest impression on me during my torture with these conversations is I had V2K with my remote neural monitoring handler. Then I made repeated comments to how they were just watching a man go to the bathroom, and they let slip that they could live stream my torture and make money. They claimed they had a large homosexual following that enjoyed violating the privacy of straight men. This was partly true because I believe that mostly they were selling invaluable human testing data. At night, they would often be intoxicated or drunk. Now, this has been reported by other whistleblowers. In fact, Brian Coffrin, also known as Justin Carter, etc., had created a video about this very thing. That the most disturbing part about this program is if they're going to be testing on targeted people covertly or not, at least be clean. But most of these people were inebriated and testing on test subjects. So this was when he said I could get them to engage with me most of the time. And during the day, they were relatively sober and stuck to the simple, repetitive insults and skits to scare me. He said, I always thought they sat and watched me 24 hours a day. And it was during one of these late-night encounter interrogations I discovered an important piece of the puzzle. I accidentally burned myself as I lit a cigarette with my lighter. The handler cried out with a Pillsbury Doughboy-like scream, and then went silent. By using advanced brain-computer interface software, they can actually share the target's sensory experiences. Oh, really? Oh, we'll have to play with that one. We should play with that one, right? This contractor wanted to experience smoking a cigarette while getting no physical side effects, and the sensory sharing BCI, which is brain-computer interface function, was also guaranteed with none other than Neuralink. Elon Musk let this slip in an old interview about the promises of Neuralink before it was carefully taken back. And I don't remember hearing this, but we'll just speculate that what this individual is saying to be true. Musk promised advanced sensory sharing capabilities through Neuralink, envisioning a future where brain implants enable direct transmission of experiences like vision, touch, emotions between people, or even to AI systems. So Musk first detailed this in 2017 with a Wait But Why blog post describing Neuralink as a wizard hat, quote unquote, for the brain that would allow high bandwidth sharing of sensory data far beyond verbal communication, essentially telepathy. for full experiences. He reiterated in events like the 2019 Neuralink unveiling and 2020 updates aiming for symbiosis, where users could quote-unquote upload perceptions or replay memories. Musk is very well aware of this classified technology and works with the government to make a quote-unquote consumer-grade version of it. And this is all really disturbing, scary stuff. So once discovering this aspect of what remote neural monitoring RNM contractors were doing, they were more than happy to tell me that they shared all of my pleasurable experiences too. They would often use control over my central nervous system to cause sexual excitement and encourage me to watch pornography or go cheat on my wife. I would ignore them and research the technology being used on me or continue my counter-interrogation. Female targeted people I've talked to describe the same interaction with their RNM handlers. It's described as electronic sexual abuse, oftentimes to degrade people for the purpose of breaking them down psychologically. However, these contractors obviously are lonely and sadistic individuals that use it for their own gratification. And we've all been saying that for a while. I've created videos on my channel on how I have a theory that targeted individuals are sexual paraphilia. Yes, meaning that we're a perversion for these criminals. They get off on it. Because, they hang out in mommy's basement and they don't get enough sunlight and, they're just losers. So anytime he was intimate with his wife, they would link into his sensory experiences, and oftentimes they would use V2K to try to direct me as I was physically intimate with my wife. I mean, this is so disgusting, guys. This is so wrong. This is just so wrong. Nobody should be interfering with somebody's sexual intimacies alone in the privacy of their own house or bedroom. This was obviously disgusting and infuriating to me, and along with the prolonged torture, our love life almost ground to a halt. Then I started waking up mid-love making with my wife. My body was being commandeered and directed unconsciously by the remote neural monitoring contractor. This is like off the charts. This is depraved. Then, of course, he stumbled upon these neural snuff films. Once he understood how common this was, he said, I started noticing many criminal cases that sounded like they were remote neural monitor V2K induced. One case involved a teenage boy waking up while stabbing his sister to death. Another man was hearing voices beat 4 homeless men to death as they slept in New York City. These are just 2 examples of dozens of stories I found like this. There's a campaign of sadistic murderers using this technology to remotely experiencing deleting people with no consequences. It's a covert terrorist program to demoralize the population. The incentive is obvious to these criminal state-sponsored RNM V2K contractors. Abused and programmed people that enjoy torturing people with complete immunity and protection. That's what they are. They are stuck in front of their computers 18 hours a day with the only chance of experiencing life through technology. He goes on to say, I suspect these contractors are programmed with Project Monarch style techniques. I absolutely agree. I feel, it is my belief and the belief of many others that Monarch MK Ultra never ended. It just morphed into these horrific programs that utilize technology. Where would they be without their technology? Seriously, where would they be without technology? Turning them into sadistic and sex-obsessed psychotic drones. This was something being developed by the CIA for decades and produced countless serial killers. The Son of Sam, the Zodiac Killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Toy Box Killer, and many more. all in the armed forces before becoming serial killers. Or, I'm going to add, many of them were also PhD geniuses, like James Holmes, Adam Lanza, Kohlberger. These are PhD level students, brilliant people. Start hearing voices. So then there's the pedophile rapist serial killers like Henry Lee Lucas, Dean Corll, John Wayne Gacy. Oh my God, that guy was creepy. And many others all claim to be part of a larger network of satanic rich people who paid for victims or snuff films. And unfortunately, guys, I don't know if you've been following the Nancy Guthrie case. I think she was an 87-year-old woman who was abducted in Arizona, and it's been like close to 40 days since she's been abducted. And she was abducted on a full moon. I firmly believe that somebody paid somebody to abduct her as a ritual sacrifice. I hope I'm wrong. But she was on a pacemaker and all, it's been a month and a half now, and nothing. No photos of her, no recording of her. She's gone. I'm sorry. She's got to be gone. I hate to say that. This is a hidden network, a subculture that has been operating for decades. It is a vicious and disgusting subculture of the hidden shadow government that uses mind control and blackmail to run the Western world.